La deuxième partie de cette soirée est consacrée à un ami que vous connaissez bien, qui merveilleuse sur les albums de famille, les albums en ligne, à l'archevêché. Je vais appeler Erik Kessels.
In the Archevêché, Erik Kessels.
Good evening, everybody. Let me first introduce myself. Yeah, here we are. I work in an advertising agency in Amsterdam called Kessels Kramer, and we work in this church, which is quite handy because you can tell to your mother that you go to church every day. The reason I'm telling this is just to give a little bit of background of where I come from and what kind of work I do when I'm not in Arles. And so, I mean, my fascination for amateur photography and vernacular photography comes in a way from the fact that I'm working in advertising, because I love advertising as much as I hate it. I think a lot of people hate advertising, and but for me there was always a kind of a push to really look for something else, because in advertising and in general a lot of photography is very perfect, and I'm always I've been always interested in finding also imperfect things in advertising. And I give just a few examples of the work that I have been doing over the last years in the office. That's just to introduce it a little bit. First of all, this is one of the first ads we did in 1996 when the agency started. This is for a shoe company in Amsterdam called Shoe Baloo. And here we thought, because in advertising and in fashion, there is, I mean, the models are always perfectly placed and perfectly in perfect condition. So we put like a little classified ad in the newspaper asking if young people up till 25 with a handicap and with one leg would star for this shoe company. And funny enough, within 1 week we had about 25 young people who wanted to be a model in these ads. And for instance, this girl, I mean, they have a lot of humor as well, because this girl said, like, it's very, in a way, a big advantage when you have only one leg and only one feet, because you have only one smelly feet instead of two. So another example is we did a theme for the city of Amsterdam called I Amsterdam. And here I worked with a lot of photographers that normally never work in advertising. And to show you some examples, we worked with about 20 different photographers and made a book about the city and all kinds of subjects in the city done by these 20 photographers. And the pictures from the book, they also were the advertising for Amsterdam. So, I mean, it's quite strange. These are 3 pictures by Hans Eichelboom. It's quite strange to, and it works quite good to kind of introduce people that normally not shoot work for advertising within these ads. This is Bert Teunissen. And for instance, this is an ad for Diesel. We worked about 6 years for them. It's shot by Jean-Pierre Cazem from Paris. And here we gave all kinds of examples of how people can stay younger all the time. So for instance, in this one, just by drinking enough urine. Another ad is shot by Karl de Keizer. And here we kind of faked these street protests, and then we did them with very kind of positive protests. So here it says, respect your mum, but we also had like free the goldfish or more green traffic lights. And another ad saying like nature, love it while it lasts. So we did a replica of this Gardens of Eden. And here are some ads for a telephone company called Ben. This is shot by Dana Lixenberg. And yeah, sometimes in this campaign we also involved kind of social issues. So here it says Ben welcome, which means I am welcome, about migration problems in Holland and playing with that. Yeah, maybe I show a few examples of a client which is quite a strange client, because it was actually our first client in 1996, and the first client that also called the office. So we thought like, hooray, at least somebody calls. And the next day I went to the hotel, and it was the worst nightmare I ever had, because it was such a shitty hotel, unbelievable. I mean, the first client who called, and it was this kind of hotel. It's a 500-bed hotel in the center of Amsterdam, but totally low budget, and it looks like a total shithole. But so, I mean, for us it was something like, what shall we do about this? Because if you make something very nice out of it, it's a big lie. So, but soon we found out that. I thought it's good, in a way, they have one advantage, because honesty is their only luxury that they have. So that's what was something that we used for 15 years. We work 15 years for them. When we started, they had about 60,000 overnights. And at the moment, they have 150,000 overnights, and it didn't change a thing. I mean, the hotel looks now even worse than I started. And so this was one of the first ads we did. Now a bed in every room. So, I mean, just showing all the very nice things in the hotel. And after this campaign, there were a lot of reactions, and people really liked it. So there was a very positive atmosphere with us, and also in the hotel. So we thought it's nice to use some very luxurious imagery. And then we used this kind of stock photograph of a five-star hotel, putting all kinds of stars on it. And in the right-hand bottom it says, not included. So. Yeah. Yeah, another time we thought it's nice to show also the people that visit the hotel. So here we use this classical advertising trick of before and after. The only thing is that we turned it around, because it said like check in the Hansbrinker budget hotel, and then it said check out. So the city of Amsterdam, where we later did this I Amsterdam theme for, they were not very happy with this campaign, but the hotel was very happy. After this campaign, we thought, like, this is almost the end of it, because we can't make this even worse than this. You know, this is the worst there is. But sometimes this is like also an inspiration for the next campaign. So we use that fact that we can't make it even worse. So it says like, the next time it said the Hansbrinker budget hotel, it can't get any worse. But we'll do our best. So there were all kinds of solutions how, I mean, when people check in and they see this window, and this is a real situation in the hotel. I mean, it's there are 3 rooms like this, and it's better to close the window and then, or to close the curtain. Another one is this one, where, I mean, the image on the right looks a little bit more promising than the image on the left. So.
Hansbrinker Budget Hotel, Amsterdam. It can't get any worse. But we'll do our best.
Yeah, and we continue to, thanks. we continued to work for them and used also all kinds of people that normally don't work in advertising, as I said. This is a campaign we did with Jacqueline Hassing, who exhibited here as well. So here, I mean, there were still some complaints coming into the hotel. So, I mean, first when I met the hotel manager, he said, like, I have only one job for you. I don't want any complaints anymore. But here there were still complaints, so we thought, like, okay, these students and backpackers, if they still complain, we just show their home situation. So this says just like home. And another campaign was shot by Thomas Mailander, because people don't sleep in the hotel rooms anyway, because they party in Amsterdam. They only sleep on the train on the way back to Paris, for instance. So this says, pay for a bed you won't use, Hans Brinker Budget Hotel. Okay, yeah, so far for the advertising work, I can show much more, but this is just like an introduction why I'm also looking for imperfection in images, and I'm really fascinated about that. The exhibition here called Album Beauty is in a way an ode to the family album, which is at the moment yeah, almost dying, and that's totally over. So in the exhibition itself, I just want to present this almost as a more like an installation where you really can walk through, and where you, I mean, almost walk through a physical album. So you can touch the photographs that are in these racks, and you can stick your head through things, and you can touch the wallpaper, and. I mean, it's just a. I mean, if you think that we have only been photo albums have only been there for about roughly 100 years, and now it's over. So here are some installations in the exhibition in Arles. This exhibition is the third time it's shown. First was in Foam in Amsterdam, and then in the photography festival in Derby, the contact or the format photography festival. And I just want to maybe go a little bit into these single images that I find in albums, because I'm quite interested in certain typologies that you find within albums. For instance, I mean, people make mostly around 7 or 8 albums, and the first album is always when they meet each other. And so there's an example of it here. For instance, this is an album where two people meet each other, they're in love with each other, they go on holiday, and I mean, with analog photography, the boyfriend or the husband was mostly the one that took the photos. So he's really taking close-ups of her excessively, the whole album full, and he puts, like, with a big, in big type, the name of his girlfriend in there. I mean, the second album that was made is mostly like the marriage album, and totally about the marriage, and you see that all over the world in all kinds of countries. And the third album made is mostly totally dedicated to a newborn child, and the whole album, the fresh parents are totally dedicating this album to the new child. Again, you find it in a lot of countries. When people can't have children, then they mostly focus their album on other things. So in this case, there are people that are totally crazy about their dogs, and I mean, they excessively photograph that, and I mean, it goes on and on. They play with it, and when there are no children and no dogs, then they go for the car. Like, then they photograph many times the car, and because what else is there to photograph then? Yeah, and mostly the fourth, the fifth, and the sixth album is a huge mess, because it's like there's chaos in the house, the new children, holidays, busy time. So it's, I mean, it's not so organized, but everything is stuck together, and total chaos. You know, there are blank spaces in there. and some series and small typologies with every child in front of the house. And then there is also something that I think which is nice to see, that how people make an album also change per country. So for instance, this is a Swiss album where people really with a ruler stick all the images, and they put like with crayon little lines where they can write the caption between, and with a ruler they make like a underlining. And here's another Swiss album, also very correct and very neat. But then this is an American album, and they just stuck everything in, and they just open the plastic and throw it in and close it again, and more chaos. And here's another chaos. It's like, this is by the way a wedding, like a wedding which the photographs have been totally decayed, but the wedding pictures are stuck on a camera manual. I mean, I just found it like this. And then there is very boring photographs, photo albums, of course. I mean, generally, maybe 90% of all the albums I find are totally boring, because people take only photographs of mountains or waterfalls of their house with nobody in it, and it's very strange. Why would they do that? I mean, these are from different countries, and I mean, this is a French album, also quite boring, just recording the rebuilding of their house. Yeah. And this one as well, I mean, fantastic, I think. Photographing your wife 4 times with a blue umbrella in front of nothing. And this one is also very strange. People bought a new bed and they're trying it out. And they make pictures in it. And I mean, the bed, the man in the bed, the wife in the bed. Congratulations. This has been a very, 2 girls go on holiday in Ibiza, and it's very boring, so they can't find a boyfriend, and they are totally pissed off. They start to take pictures of each other. Then there's, of course, the more personal albums, like very explicit, but just found on the flea market, very strange. I mean, I have like 4 or 5 albums of this man who took photographs of this woman in the house. And this is from Belgian Congo. Yeah, and then I'm very much interested in like certain mistakes that happen in these albums, because I mean, the times that people still printed images, especially with black and white and early color images, people really, even if something was wrong with the image, they just kept it and they stuck it anyway in the album, because it was it was nothing to throw away, but just to add on your album. I mean, nowadays, cameras on our phone are so perfect that, I mean, we need now an application to fuck up our image and to make it look bad. And but in these times, there were like a lot of development stains still on it. And they're, I think, beautiful images if you look at them, because life has touched them. And yeah, there's a lot of examples with certain stains. And this ink spot that went on 2 images. And yeah. Very happy marriage. Yeah, here cracks, but then cracks are also mostly always exactly on the right spot. So this one not on the right spot, maybe. And overexposed images. And then there's, of course, the classic finger in front of the lens, which is also, you see it in every country. and in every age of that people photographed. Yeah, another example is the camera strap in front of the lens. And yeah, when you start photographing and you don't see it, then in every image the camera strap is in front of it. And the whole roll of film has this camera strap in front of it. Yeah, then there's photo mutilations, of course. And here there are, what you see is a lot that an unwanted family member is just brutally cut out of the image and makes a new kind of image. I don't know which family member this is, but regardless how the picture will look, they just brutally cut it out and stick it back in the album. This one, I thought it's also an unwanted member, but this one is used for a little medallion, I heard later. And I think this is one of my favorites because it's like a woman who divorced from her husband and she cut herself out of the wedding picture. But she didn't have a left arm, so she had to cut a little piece of her ex-husband on the photograph and stuck it back on the cardboard. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, sometimes, I mean, it's not only things that go wrong, but sometimes you find also very special small series of photographs with also like a whole bunch of, I mean, probably a father with all his children just as a sequence photographed outside with balloons. And I think it's also good to say that I mean, a family album is mostly a tool for propaganda. It's like family propaganda because mostly everybody's very much smiling on the images. The family is on its best, and that's where I mean, you show these albums to family members to see, or to other relatives to see, and friends to see how the family was doing and that everything was going well. People sometimes ask me, like, do you also make yourself family albums? I mean, I do, but I sometimes also record then moments of my children that are not very perfect and that are, I mean, not so much propaganda, but so children have a lot of accidents, of course, when they are young and a lot of bloody noses. So don't be shocked, but this is all. I didn't do this, but it happened for real. So I take then. Oh, sorry, that's the last one. I take then Polaroids of my children just when they have like when something went wrong, and. I mean, after a while that I did this, they even waited for me and they called me to make the picture. And I mean, they knew that I was doing this, so. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, another exhibition presented here is called 24 Hours of Photos. And this came in a way there was a question from the Foam Photography Museum in Amsterdam if I could participate in a project to show how the photography museum in the future would look like. And I'm already quite a while fascinated with the amount of images that we live with every day and that are just surrounded by us. I mean, we nowadays consume images almost like food. We don't look at them anymore. It just goes in and out, and I mean, people have to become really editors to see what they like and what they don't like, and they have to choose which images they want to see. But for this exhibition, I downloaded 24 hours of photographs from Flickr that were newly uploaded in that period, and those were 950,000. So at the end of the 24 hours, there were 950,000 on the disk, and So I printed them out for real and dumped them in a way in a museum space. And people were able to walk through and I mean, this showed then physically once how many images we live with every day, and I mean, a lot of the systems that you find in the old albums are also just in these photographs, but there are just many more of them, and the fact is that many of these photographs actually will never be printed normally. Yeah, the installation in Arles looks like this. So we use this kind of chapel to let the photographs come down from very high into the space. Funny, on the second day of the exhibition, what happened? These popes came into the room and they wanted to bless it. I mean, that was quite a strange. It's not. It happened spontaneous, really. But then. I mean, there was a rumor going around that these popes blessed the room. So then a Catholic priest heard about it from Arles, and he thought, like, geez, there's competition, I have to do it as well. So then the next day he did it as well. So, I mean, nice things can happen because there was another, this exhibition was also presented in Toronto in the Contact Photo Festival, and there actually a visitor found a picture of his girlfriend in the pile of photographs. So, I mean, every time something nice happens. Okay, now I want to go to my fascination also to kind of look at the images, select them, and then take them out of its context and put them in a new medium. So after trying sometimes things with different publishers, we thought, like, maybe it's better than that when we make these niche books about vernacular photographer, that we just do it ourselves. So now for some years we publish these books ourselves, and they are a certain series. It started in a way with a book called Wonder, where we, with a few people, we collected the photographs, and we had these stringers in 1 hour print shops of people that left their photograph behind because they thought that they were wrong. And so this book has a huge collection of that in there. This is a very nice example of it. This was a photograph of a woman that opened the envelope in the shop, and there was only one photograph in there because her shutter got stuck when she took the first picture on holiday. And then her whole roll of film exposed on this one image. And this was her image. I think it's a beautiful image, but she didn't want it, and she left very angry the shop. Of course, there's also a lot of double exposures, and mostly exactly in the right spot, of course. And I mean, some things are beautiful poster images almost, and but they are just accidents. And good poster for a horror movie. Yeah, a lot of decisive moments, of course. And I mean, the strangest thing happen when you get all the pictures that people don't want, because the other ones are just boring, I think, that they take home. This is my favorite. Oh, no, that's not my favorite, but the next one, I think. Yes, that's the one. I mean, how can you leave this in the shop? I think it's... I mean, it takes years and years to make another picture like this. Then there is a series of magazines we make. It has a title, Useful Photography. And I do this with 4 other people. And we all have a fascination for imagery that is kind of useful, that is applied photography. So photographs from brochures, from websites, from all kinds of semi and semi-professionals and professionals. And I mean, also when you take these images out of its context, they become suddenly very, very nice. And in this magazine, we just put them all democratically in there. And there are images like this where, I mean, they fall on your doorstep, and when you cut it out of the brochure, and this one, for instance, I blew it up very big, and I had it hanging in my living room for quite a while. And after a while, you really start to like this image, and a little bit later, not anymore, but I mean, then there's a lot of new images you can hang in your living room. And I mean, they become very interesting when you isolate them and when you take them from the place where you found them. This is like a police photograph from a police journal. This is like a situation where with no seatbelt. Sorry. Yeah, very beautiful typologies. I mean, oops. Yeah, this one I really like as well. It's like a photographer that took pictures of these racks where children play on. I mean, I really like this. Yeah, these are used by an illustrator to draw them after he photographed them. And this is also one of the favorites. I mean, how useful can a photograph be? And sometimes we place them not only in the magazine, but this image we had like in Amsterdam for quite a while, just wrapped around a building. So yeah, another magazine we made was all about photography that we found on eBay. And here, of course, nowadays, people, when they sell their things that they normally would sell on the street, now they do it I mean, they use their homes as a photo studio. So here, somebody photographed the back of a speaker on a billiard table. And, I mean, great idea, I think. But in the book, you find a lot of very smart photo solutions. Like when you have to photograph a wedding dress, you put it against a black background. And also, when the background is too dark for your subject, you put a little bit of a white card behind it. And often there's also like a little coin used for to show the measurement. And also the tablecloth or the bed cover is often used because it's like a big white sheet, so you can use that. And this is one of my favorites, like 2 crucifixes on a couch with a ruler in between. I mean, there's no professional photographer who would ever come up with an idea like this. I mean, this is really brilliant, I think. Yeah, and the funny thing is what happened now, I just searched for these a few weeks ago, but they're selling this magazine because they sell it now also on eBay, so I can collect the pictures of the magazine again on eBay. And yeah, this is an issue we made in between, like almost like a special when the war in Iraq started. And we found out that every country, in a way, has its own camouflage uniform, and which is, in a way, I think quite stupid, because why wouldn't they make all the same camouflage uniform? Would be much more efficient. But in this magazine, we show then 64 countries with all their different uniforms. And we just made a film about this. So if you can put the music loud. Yeah, another subject for the fifth issue was, you don't believe it or not, but in every country there's a cow photographer. And I mean, the cow photographer, it's a special trait because when he photographs the cow, he always puts like a little bit of grass underneath the two first legs. This is just to make the back more straight. And I mean, in this magazine we portrayed a lot of children from this bull called Lord Lily. And Lord Lily gave about 4 times a week sperm for 12 years. And he has about 150,000 children. And most of them are all photographed in all kinds of different countries. And what you see is always the same reason that when it was photographed, always exactly at the same way photographed. They always hold the hand between the face, so that behind the face, so that you can see it very good. And constantly the same, only the background changes. And and then we also made a film about the Dutch cow photographer. And this shows a little bit how intense this job is, because it's very difficult. And I just want to show that.
Moedersvader is een bolletje Charles. Nee, het is een bolletje Charles. En die andere is moedersvader, dat is een bolletje. Rechts voor wat naar voren doet. Rechts voor ietsjes achteruit. Iets naar buiten toe. Ik kan de voorkant van het blokje ietsjes grijs bovenop gooien. Oké. Staart erbij, auto toe.
So when there's a car in the field as well, because if the cow is in the perfect position, he puts like a cassette tape of cow sounds in the car, so that the cow is even more concentrated.
Iets een beetje in dat hoor ik iets doen. Nee, mama. Nee, zit niet voor mij, hoor. Nou, gewoon is het moeilijk. Ik vind het echt dat het geschoven is. Ik blijf even staan, dan zou ik even de blad stakken. Dan loop je richting hierin.
One of the last issues is all about photographs that we found on pornographic websites. And these are the photographs that you can see just before you have to use your credit card. And this is where the actors, or so-called actors, where they show a little bit of their acting skills. So you see a lot of mise-en-scènes with, I mean, here there's a driving test, or there's a lot of birthday parties, parties where they do, where they decorate the house, or all kinds of strange things. And I mean, they're not sexual at all, but you know that there's something strange going on. And of course, there's also the classic pizza delivery scene. So It says big sausage pizza on the right. And this one I like a lot as well. It's like a woman in a red dress pouring water over herself with a coffee can. I mean, why would she, for God's sake, do this? I mean, that's nice when you really select those photographs and put them all together. It becomes very strange. Yeah, one of the last issues we did is number 10. It's all about the ritual of wedding and the stereotypical imagery that is made around the wedding.
What will you say when the day comes, when it's no fun, when it's all done, when it's no fun? What will you say when the time comes? There's a dry run when it's undone, and it's no one when it's too much love, too much love, too much. It's too much love, too much love, too much. Too much, too much love, too much.
And yeah, I want to conclude tonight with showing a few examples of another series of books I do. They are called In Almost Every Picture. And this is in a way also, the books are made in a way from my passion for amateur photography and photographs that I find either on online or on photo albums on flea markets. And in a way it started around 15 years ago, where I found about 400 images from a woman from Barcelona on a flea market in Barcelona. And it started to rain, and I didn't even look at them, but I just bought them. And they were all 6x6 slides. And when I got home, I saw that for 12 years, because they were all dated, the husband photographed his wife on holidays, and but in a very kind of beautiful way. And sometimes they made like a really amateuristic photo shoot with they put a rose in her mouth. And I mean, there's a lot of bathing suits, of course, and. Yeah, but another strange thing I found, because when I selected them, I put them in order to edit the book of them. So I started with the first picture they took, and but then what I saw, like gradually, when it became later in time, the woman became smaller in the image. So I mean, later it was. I mean, probably the photographer lost a little bit of interest in its subject, or he had a more eye for the background. But I mean, in one of the last pictures in the book, she's in a way like that's this one. She's totally disappearing, and the very last one, she's almost gone. And but this system you find in a lot of albums, that when a woman gets older, they grow or they go further apart from each other, and so that it's quite sad, but also quite funny, I think. So when the book came out, I was of course curious, because there were no address or anything on those images. So I was curious who this woman was, and I got back to Barcelona and wrote to a few newspapers, sent the pictures and said, like, do you know who this woman is, and can you maybe announce this? And in the Spanish press they called her Señora X, or La Mujer Misteriosa. And after 2 weeks there was a woman contacted me, she was about 72 years old, and she knew this woman on the images, and the woman on the images is called Josefina Iglesias. And she died some years before, and soon after also her husband died. And this says also something about, I mean, they had no children, because in the images you never saw children appearing. So this kind of got me very interested in finding more and more of these stories made by amateurs. And Soon after the second book, I made it together with Andrea Stultins, and this was given to us. It was a series of 700 slides by that was made by a taxi driver from Holland, and he had a client, a taxi driver. It was a woman from a few streets further on, and a few times a year he drove with the woman, took her for 3 or 4 days on holiday trips, and she paid him. But funny enough, the 700 images, he always stepped out of the car and took a picture of the car, and so I went through these images. There are 2 different Mercedeses in that series, so it went on for quite a long time. But later I found also out that, because first you are already, you think it's strange that it's only you see constantly the Mercedes, but then I found also out that the woman is always sitting in the car, so she's never coming out. And I mean the pictures are quite beautiful, I think, and. I mean, sometimes there's a door open to get some air, and also in city centers, he parks the car and takes a picture, and but she's constantly in there, and even when there is, say, yeah, like even when there's a sunset. And then she's still in there, and even at night she's also in there. So, but then in the 700 images, there was one image that she took from him, and that's this one, and she took it from the car also. So, but later I did some research, and we found out that. The woman, because it's curious, I mean, we got curious, why is this woman constantly in the car? But we found out that the woman was handicapped. So that's why he put her in the morning in the car, and after they left the hotel, and then he drove her around and put her in all kinds of touristic spots, and then he stepped out of the car, and in a way he made her holiday pictures. And yeah, another book are again photographs from Barcelona, but funny enough, I found this album in Brussels on the market, and this is about a non-identical twin, and they are constantly photographed like on La Rambla and on other spots, but they always wear the same clothing, and they have a lot of outfits. I mean, this is around 1940, and it's bizarre to find in an album so many of these twin pictures. And especially because they don't look like each other, and one is just one head bigger than the other. And yeah, at a certain moment, they I'll show a few more. Yeah, for instance, this one is beautiful because they are almost connected with each other, the clothing. And at a certain moment, they also get a boyfriend, and that's this one. You don't know whose boyfriend it is, of course. But later in the album, it looked like the boyfriend became a soldier. And this is actually the last picture I found that these two, or at least that the 2 sisters were together, because this was the next one dated in the album. And after that, there were only images with the smaller one of the 2 on the photographs. And strangely enough, she was always standing either left or right of the image, and almost leaving like an imaginary space for her sister that never came back. Because I have albums of this woman until she's about 80, and she moved to Brussels. That's also why I found them there. And I mean, there were many albums, and but after this event, her sister, she never came back. Yeah, so that's a sad story. Maybe this is a little bit of a more funny story that's found on the internet. There's an amateur from Hokkaido, it's a province in Japan, who I found on the internet, and he had a photographic blog, and every day he posted a photograph of his rabbit. And the rabbit is called Oolong. And the rabbit is very able to balance anything on his head. So every day you would find images with things on his head, and it became more and more crazy, of course. And I mean, it's fantastic because in the morning you go to the site and it makes your day. You know, like it's very. Yeah, the oolong is a great balancer as well. But at a certain moment, oolong wasn't going that well with oolong, so that was also something. The tragedy, you could also follow that. So he became sick and nothing on his head and more something in his head. But yeah, you followed that day by day, and he carefully photographed that again. And suddenly, this image was posted a day later, and but I thought, like, okay, this is the end of it. But out of curiosity, I checked the site the next day again, and then there was this image posted. So it's 2 carrots, but so don't think it's his ears, but these were carrots. Yeah. So here you see also that, I mean, an amateur can tell funny stories, but also can tell tragedy with this. I mean, this is not like a professional photographer. The photographs are done with one of the first digital cameras, very low res, and but he can tell a certain story, and that's what I really like. Another book which is also exhibited here in Arles is about Ria, and this is a woman I heard from from Joep Eikens from Holland. And she is, when Ria was 16 years old, she started to shoot in a shooting gallery in Holland. And this was in 1936, and it was quite, of course, quite strange already that a woman shot. But then every year after, she started to photograph. So a shooting gallery, you shoot at a certain target, and when you hit the bullseye, it makes a picture of you. I mean, not in every country they have this system, but a lot of people know about it. And so in a way, she recorded herself, and he recorded also in a way the whole history of photography. Because in the beginning, she had to come back the next day because there was a negative made, and but later they became, of course, more Polaroids, and then you could take it straight away. So slowly there was color coming in the photographs. And I went to Ria, to her service flat, and I asked her if she would like to make this book in that series. And she was very happy, and she had like a small album where all the Polaroids and photographs were stuck in. And yeah, I mean, you always saw then you saw always the gun lying there, but when Ria got older, also her walking stick appeared there. And then in every picture you saw the walking stick. And but I mean, this is Ria in Arles, and that's a picture she shot in Arles, so that can be added to the collection almost. And when Ria came to Arles, she also brought a gun, but it was quite dangerous to take that through customs, but it was a plastic one, but she likes to have guns around her. And here she's trying it out in a hotel in Arles. And after the book was made, I there was a lot of publicity, and in England they called her the woman who shoots herself. And also the Stedelijk Museum in Amsterdam, they were interested in to buy her whole collection, so the originals. And then Ria sold them to them for a big amount of money for her. And I mean, for her was like finally the boat had arrived. You know, she never saw so much money in her life, and she never had a husband, and she always had like a pharmacia. And so then the years after, this happened maybe 4 years ago, the years after Ria had all this money and she started to burn the money because she really wanted to, she spent it on bus trips with her friends and all kinds of dinner parties. And then recently we had the last party or the last dinner, and so all her money was gone. And now she's very happy. She's 94, she still shoots every year. And then she has an agreement with the museum that when she shoots, she sends it in an envelope there, and then they add it to the collection. Yeah, another book I recently made is, in a way, also I found it in New York, and this is from a family who was kind of fighting against one of the big mysteries in photography, and that's how to shoot my black dog. And this went always wrong. I mean, all their life people photographed this black dog, and they totally failed. I mean, but I kept on trying and trying and trying, and but it never happened. I mean, it was like the dog was just like a big black shape on the photographs, and I mean, it's a sad story because, I mean, there's backlight. There's when they photographed it outdoor, it went wrong. Even when there was bright sunlight, it didn't work. And they also chose to have a black sofa, so that didn't work either. I mean, and in the end, they were, I mean, in the album, they got so frustrated. You could feel the frustration of the owners of the dog that they started to overexpose the film heavily. So then there was one image which they succeeded, and that's this one. They finally made it. Yeah, and to finish tonight, I want to show one of the latest books in that series. I made now 12 books in that series. They're all called In Almost Every Picture, just because I couldn't find a better title for the second one. But this is almost similar to the photograph of Josefina Iglesias that I showed in the beginning, the book that I found the first time. But so it's similar kind of relationship between a man and his wife. And this is Valerie on the images. I found these images on Flickr and contacted people if I could use them. And they were very happy. So on the image again, this is Valerie, and the photographs are made by Fred. And Fred is really into photographing Valerie in the water. But in the beginning she had a bathing suit on, but then later he started to experiment that she had like shorts on and she should stand in the water somewhere else. And then later it got more crazy. I mean, it got very, constantly she had to stand with her clothes on in water. And I mean, and there are hundreds and hundreds of images that Fred took of Valerie. I mean, and yeah, that's another one, yeah. I mean, Valerie also took everything in the water that she had, and I mean, she looks like a modern Ophelia, I think. It's beautiful. Here she had even her handbag with all the stuff in, and Fred also wrote to me that this is why, like, really a special thing for them, because they think it's really like a form of freedom that you can go any moment of the day in the swimming pool, and that for them it's cheating when they wear bathing suits under their normal clothing. That's kind of a matter of cheating. Yeah, so again, also at night they secretly go into a public fountain, and then he flashes the photographs, and in the winter as well, winter time. It's not only the summer. And I mean, when I made the book, I contacted them, and they were very happy to do it because they love to show themselves. But then I thought it would be nice if they could make also a picture with the book for publicity reasons, or that I could use for publicity for the book, so that they make a picture with the book in the water. And I didn't tell them that I printed also 400 copies of the book on plastic. So I sent them the first plastic book that was printed, and then I received this email, and it says I have to turn around because it says. Hello, Erik. I've sent a dozen of photos from our afternoon book swim. I hope they meet what is needed for publicity photos. I have Photoshop touched them up for good presentations. I shot well over 100 views, and these are the best. The shoot went very well. We were both in the mood. There was a light overcast as hoped for, with no harsh shadows. Valerie wanted to know if the book was really to go into the water. I said yes. The book slipped down in the water a little bit at a time, Valerie taking it and herself in deeper as the photos progressed. Eventually it was fully under. We enjoyed the tantalizing intrigue of it. After the photo sequence, we both swam with the book, looking again at each picture. The water was not seeming to have any effect on it. We must have enjoyed 2 hours in the water with it. I rinsed it off in the house, dried off each page, and placed paper towels between each page. The book seems to have withstood the lengthy adventure just fine. Love the whole business, Fred and Valerie. And then these are 3 of the nicest pictures, I thought. So this is the result. And this is the one, the next one I like the best, and that was chosen for publicity. So thank you very much.
Erik Kessels. Go on, he deserves it. He deserves it. You'll see his exhibition in the Arches, both exhibitions, to go and bathe in the photographs. Erik Kessels.